And there's more. There's more fire for us today. We're closing with the powerful voice of Linda Sarsour. Another woman who needs no introduction, but who I will give one anyway. Linda's a racial justice and civil rights organizer, every Islamophobe's worst nightmare, and mother of three. She's a Palestinian Muslim American and a self-proclaimed pure New Yorker, born and raised in Brooklyn. We've got a really strong New York representation here. She's the executive director of the Arab American Association of New York and co-founder of the first Muslim online organizing platform, Empower Change. Linda has been at the forefront of major civil rights campaigns, including calling for an end to unwarranted surveillance of New York's Muslim communities and ending police policies like stop and frisk. And most recently, the Women's March and A Day Without a Woman. She's a member of the Justice League New York City, a leading New York City force of activists, formerly incarcerated individuals, and artists working to reform the New York Police Department and the criminal justice system. We also heard that at APAC last week, there was a special workshop. What do we do about Linda Sarsour? About Linda Sarsour is learn from her. Join me in welcoming her.
Thank you so much, JVP. I'm probably like everybody else in this room. I am overwhelmed. I'm feeling like so many things all at the same time. I'm feeling inspired. I'm feeling love. I'm feeling outraged. I'm feeling angry. I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling a lot of things at this moment, and I'm sure that you're all feeling the same. I'm also honored and privileged to be here in this space, and honored to be on the stage with Rasmiya and with Niall, and feeling the injustice that we work against every single day literally facing us right now, and we're looking at it right in the mirror. I want you to know, my friends at JVP and all of you that are here today, that you have taught me what Judaism is all about. Your work towards justice, your love, your compassion, your solidarity, the way that you see us as whole people, that you allow us to show up in all of our complexities, that you believe that all people deserve to live with dignity and respect. That for me is what Judaism is. Thank you for teaching me about your beautiful religion. I've been doing organizing work for a long time, about 16 years. And I've been Palestinian for about 37 years. Nothing new here. Nothing, I didn't come out of the closet. I've been always Palestinian. And then on January 21st, I was part of a group of women, many of us who did not know each other, who organized the largest single-day protest in U.S. history, the Women's March on Washington. To be one of 4 national co-chairs for the Women's March. And I made it really clear that I wasn't trying to be a token. I didn't want anybody putting my beautiful Palestinian hijabi face up on a poster and talking about we're being intersectional. I wanted to make sure that I was part of a conversation and decision-making process to ensure that what I was a part of was something that everybody saw themselves in. And on that day, on January 21st in Washington, D.C., when we had set up a march expecting about 200,000 people, about 1 million extra came. And And I know Chicago threw down here too, and they threw down in LA and Albuquerque and in Alaska, and I don't even know places I never heard of. So that was great. So on that day, on that stage, I stood up and I said, not only to the 1.2 million people that were at the Women's March, but to the millions that were watching around the world, that I stood there unapologetically Palestinian American. And I was unapologetically Muslim American. And that I was my Palestinian grandmother who was born in 1927 and is still alive today in Palestine. I asked for you to pray for her because she just had a stroke this week. And I said on that stage that I was my Palestinian grandmother that was born before the creation of the State of Israel. That I was her wildest dreams manifested. That I stood as a powerful, unapologetic woman, not born in Palestine, but born in Brooklyn. But that blood, my sisters and brothers of Palestinians, runs real deep in our veins. And after that, and after the Women's March on Washington, it wasn't just me. There were dozens of women who organized the Women's March on Washington. And then the right wing, and the alt-right, and the white supremacists, and the right-wing Zionists, they all got together, and they had a party. And it was called the Let's Take Down Linda Sarsour party. Except that party didn't really work. And what happened after that is what solidarity looks like in action. My Jewish sisters and brothers stood up and they said, nope, not this one. You ain't getting her. Friends and organizers from African American communities, Latino communities, young undocumented organizers, you name it across this country, not that one. You ain't taking her this time. And that, my dear sisters and brothers, is what solidarity looks like. When we show up for our sisters and brothers who are organizing for justice. Because the burden shouldn't be on those who are being attacked alone. The burden is on all of us to stand for those who are standing up for all people. I've been the center of controversy in many elements of your community across the political spectrum of the Jewish community, everywhere from all the way on the right to all the way everywhere, literally on it. For God's sakes, Blossom came after me. I was like, I don't want to. My sister from North, she said, girl, did you see? She said she took a break from Big Bang Theory and she came out. I was like, no, and I feel like I want to say, I'm providing a service to you all. That I'm allowing the Jewish community to start having the real hard conversations that have been always needed to be had. And I want to use the next few minutes as an opportunity to just rant with my family just for a little bit. And you know, when I speak, I know everything's on the record, right? Even when they say it's not on the record, it's on the record for me. I'm in a movement that is about uplifting the most marginalized people. I am part of a movement that's centering those whose survival depends on it. I'm not in a movement trying to make anybody feel comfortable. I don't agree with half the people in my family, but you know what? They're still my family. If you have to be selective about how you show up in a space, that's your problem, not mine. You don't like all of me, and you don't want to be in a space with all of me when, you know what? Black lives never matter to you anyway. Undocumented people never matter to you anyway. Refugees never matter to you anyway. Combating Islamophobia never matter to you anyway. We really need to understand the moment that we're in, sisters and brothers. And I know many of you probably have been to the Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C. And it's a hard space to be in. And there's a sign in the Holocaust Museum, and it says, early warning signs of fascism. And that sign says things like disdain for human rights, disdain for the arts and intellectuals, obsession with national security, obsession with crime and punishment, rampant sexism, controlled mass media, corporate power protected, labor power suppressed, supremacy of the military as we watched 200 civilians killed in one of the deadliest airstrikes in Iraq since 2003. Fraudulent elections. I don't know one thing on that list that's already not happening. So right now, we are in a moment where we need all hands on deck. And if I gotta massage you to get you into the movement and fight fascism, I don't want you in this movement. I don't got time for that. We don't have time for that. Sometimes, it's not about us, right? Sometimes it's not about my feelings. Sometimes there are spaces that I show up in that are about Black lives. It's not my place to say, hold on a second, y'all better be including me. That sometimes I gotta show up in a space so I can be there for somebody else. This is the kind of movement that we need right now. And people will say, Linda, but there's anti-Semitism. Of course there's anti-Semitism. There's always been anti-Semitism. We all have to be committed to standing up against anti-Semitism. That's just fact of the matter. That's not something you gotta put me up against the wall to talk about. That's something that I already do. When in St. Louis, there was a Jewish cemetery that was desecrated, I didn't call up the Jewish cemetery and be like, by the way, I'm about to raise some money for y'all, but what are the politics of those people that are in that cemetery? I didn't care. Because I'm sure that the people who desecrated that cemetery didn't care either. So, what I'm saying to you is, as we talk about combating anti-Semitism, we also can't exactly compare anti-Semitism to, for example, anti-Black racism or Islamophobia. We have to be honest about how we have these conversations. Anti-Semitism is not systemic. As a white Jewish person in particular, and of course I know that there are Jews of color who are experiencing other forms of racism at a systemic level. But if you're a white Jew, you're probably going to get served quite nicely at a restaurant. You're probably going to get service at a government agency. You're probably not going to get stopped at an airport. So we got to understand and say it's okay that this is not oppression Olympics, that I have my pain and oppression got to be the same level as somebody else's. That's not how this works. And I want to say to people all the time, sometimes there are people who are afraid about what others are going to say about us. And those very people want to tell us how to do our activism. And then they start dropping on you something about how that's not what Dr. Martin Luther King did. I was like, Dr. Martin Luther, Linda, you are a race baiter. You are a divider. You are dividing our country. You got to be like Dr. Martin Luther King. Dr. Martin Luther King, he was bringing the white people and the black people together. I was like, I don't know what Dr. Martin Luther King you're talking about. That is not what Dr. Martin Luther King is doing. And I think this is another moment for us, and particularly for young people, to really understand our history. Because the history of the movements that we are trying to emulate are being used against us. So we want to, and the reason why I want to contextualize this, it allows us to be more free in the way that we organize. Because Dr. Martin Luther King was a black radical revolutionary. He cared about the upliftment of black people and equal rights for black people. That's what Dr. Martin Luther King talked about. That's what he wanted. He also was a victim of police brutality. He also wrote you letters from jails. So you want me to be like Dr. Martin Luther King? Well, we're being like Dr. Martin Luther King. Sisters and brothers, Dr. Martin Luther King was under FBI surveillance. Dr. Martin Luther King was part of organizations blacklisted by the U.S. government. Dr. Martin Luther King was called the enemy of the state. He was a dangerous man to this government. That's who Dr. Martin Luther King was. So that's how we treated him back then, and we had to wait till the man got assassinated, because if he was so peaceful, why did they assassinate him? And now we have a monument in Washington, D.C. up, and of course one here in Marquette Park, I went there, of Dr. Martin Luther King. So they got to wait till we die or get assassinated to then remember the good that we brought to the societies that we are from. So what I'm telling you today is, don't worry about what they say about you right now. History's on your side. We may be vilified now. We may be seen as the enemy now. But one day, there will be one generation, 2 generations from now that will say, man, I'm proud of those JVP folks. I'm proud of those young people of color out on these streets risking their lives. It is because of them that I am able to benefit from more freedoms because of the work that they did. I always think about Malcolm X because people drop Malcolm X on us all the time too. And this is what they say, look, Malcolm X, and we could argue that Malcolm X, Al-Hajj Malik Shabazz, was probably and still is one of the most hated men in America, even though he hasn't been on this earth for 51 years. But Malcolm X may have been one of the most hated men in America, but he was one of the most respected men in U.S. history. So I ask all of you this question, and I want you to challenge those in your life. Are you looking for acceptance or respect? I work for respect. You may not like me, you may not agree with me, but you will respect me and my convictions and my principles and my values. If what is being asked of me by those who pronounce themselves and call themselves Zionists is that I, as a Palestinian American, have to somehow leave out a portion of my identity so you could be welcomed in a space to work on justice, then that's not going to be the right space for you, because we, as Palestinian Americans, as Arab Americans, as Muslim Americans, we will not change who we are to make anybody feel comfortable. If you ain't all in, then this ain't the movement for you. What they're afraid of is exactly what the Palestinian Solidarity Movement has been working on for decades. This opportunity, this learning opportunity that when we say justice, right, we mean justice for all people. When Palestinians say freedom, we mean freedom for all people. So they say to us, well, what's so hypocritical is that you only want to bring up the state of Israel. Why not Saudi Arabia? That's the argument. I say to people, let me tell you why. And this is for you, talking points. 75% of our U.S. military aid, with your taxpayer dollars and my taxpayer dollars, go to the state of Israel and Egypt. While we are in Chicago, as they close schools in poor communities, as they close down hospitals and want to take away our health insurance and close down Planned Parenthood offices across this country, I'd rather my taxpayer dollars go to save somebody's life here in the United States of America. I'd rather my taxpayer dollars go to high quality education in poor communities across this country. I would rather my taxpayer dollars go towards building infrastructure and jobs in this country, the United States of America, before I want my taxpayer dollars to continue to brutally occupy Palestinians or murder innocent Iraqis in Iraq. Call me crazy. I don't know. I just don't understand. So what I'm saying to all of you here today is that when I think about those moments of despair that I try not to go near, as Rasmia said, I think of you. You are the now and you are the present. When I think about our opposition, if you took all of our opposition, right? You took the entire alt-right, the right-wing Zionists, you put them all in a box together. They're not more than we are. They don't have more resources than we have. They don't love their people more than we love our people. They don't love their families more than we love our families. So why is it that we allow for those who are united around hate and divisiveness people who are united around the oppression of others, how do we allow them to be louder and more powerful than those of us who are united around compassion, love, justice, liberation, and freedom for all people? That's the question on the table. And I think that we are getting in a moment where we're getting louder. And they're getting more scared, which is really the point, right? So I want you to keep doing what you're doing. I want you to shut out the naysayers, because there is nobody sitting in this room, other than probably me and Lasmine, who can say that they are being attacked in the way that we see every single day, every single morning, and this is all public information. Y'all can search it. I wake up every morning with people wishing me death and rape and deportation every day, to the point where my child has to walk in my room and say, delete it. Delete them. Don't let them say that about you. And I have to sit my child down and say, don't you worry. It's okay. Because there's a lot of people out there that will stand with us, that already stand with us, that fight with us and for us. And you are the people I'm thinking about when I say that to my 16-year-old daughter. We are strong. We know the shoulders of the giants that we stand on. As Auntie Maxine Waters eloquently says, we will not be intimidated. We will continue to stand up for the justice of all people, and we will, and I will commit to you that I will continue to work towards a country where when we say Black Lives Matter, Black lives really matter. I want to work in a country and live in a country that respects the dignity of all who reside here, regardless of what citizenship they have. In a country where people can thrive regardless of who they choose to be. And I want you to commit today more than you have ever committed in the past. Because now, more than ever, your commitment and your work depends, or people's lives actually depend on it. So let us fight fascism together. Let us call people in to the movement. And let's keep those out who are going to try to distract us from the true freedom and justice that we are all striving for. Thank you, JVP. I love you and all the work.